Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhubevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Shri Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I, as usual, am trying to catch up and deal with answering some questions which I've received either by email or by inbox or by messenger. So I did receive a question from a very nice devotee. I'll not mention the name because he's not given permission to mention the name. And the question was regarding the issue of the Swarup of the Jiva. And this issue and topic has been discussed, I think, over the course of years, many times. And there is some emotional attachment to the discussion because I think there's been some perception that there's a one side or the other view of the issue. I think rather devotees are trying their level best, including myself, to understand the tattva regarding the Swarup of the Jiva. And obviously, anyone who is an aspirant on the path of bhakti who's trying to understand anything takes their understanding from the prism of the instructions and teachings of their Guru Parapadma, and then its connection with the Guru Varga. So, because we do Guru, Sadhu, and Sastra. So, we make an alignment between those systems, Guru, Sadhu, and Sastra. So, there is the need in some cases to reconcile, to clarify, to make clear the nature of statements that are mentioned by Shri Guru, especially because we're dealing with the nature of translating not only words but concepts from one language, in particular maybe from Sanskrit to English, or Bengali even to English, and as well as translating the language, is trying to translate a concept, and in many cases here, concept means something which is in a completely different paradigm. It's a spiritual paradigm, and we're in material consciousness, though we may be unfolding. So you're trying to make a translation of something in language, in conception, and factually speaking, from one paradigm to another, from a spiritual paradigm to something that's digestible within our, ability to materially digest it. So it's not an easy thing to do. And many times, just quite frankly, things can get lost in translation, right? So that's a popular saying. And when that happens, I don't think it should become a stimulus for division, argument, or anything else, because Saranta Baila Chitta Na Karulas, Ihahoite Lage Krishna Sudirdamanas. So, because if there's any sincere attempt to understand the tattva as part of the mood of service, even if that siddhant is a difficult or more controversial in the sense that it's difficult siddhant to digest, it should not give rise to division and so forth and so on. So I have not had that experience personally. I did some years, 5-6 years back, maybe had deep conversations with devotees, even devotees from some of the traditional pariwars and things like that, about this, and there seemed to be sometimes very intense debate on the subject matter. But I did have an epiphany at one point during the course of that conversation that I had some 5 or 6 years ago. And it came because one devotee wrote me back and mentioned, "Oh, Mukunda Prabhu, so are you saying that your Guru Varga is saying that the Siddha Deha of the Jiva is like inside the conditioned Jiva, like in a pocket somewhere? And, when Bhakti makes a clearing of the heart, that Siddha Deha will then be revealed." So when I saw it, my first impression of it was that, this is the height of sarcasm. And, the devotee is, I don't know, maybe trying to elicit some emotional response and so forth and so on. But then I realized, truly, the devotee was not being sarcastic. It was a genuine, based on the digestion of the way we were speaking, the parlance we were using, like something is covered, something is in the Constitution, etc., that the words itself in English language did not really give full expression to what was meant on either side. So there was a genuine disconnect around the use mostly of the English words in describing the concept. Now, there certainly were perhaps some differences in outlook based on the way and the traditions in which, the practice goes on. I'm not saying that that's not there to some degree. But a lot of it had to do with the misunderstanding of how the concepts were translated, right? And the parlance that's used back and forth in discussion about the issue, right? So I then realized we have to take a deeper look at actually what we're saying when we utilize the English words to describe the concept. So I'm going to give an example by using the fact that Srila Gurudev, our Srila Prabhupada, and going back within our Gaudiya line, many of our acharyas have used the term that the Swarup is in the constitution of the Jiva. So I'm just going to let that sit for a second, right? Because I'm saying the Swarup is there in the constitution of the Jiva. But when you really think about that in a deeper way, what does constitution mean? Does it mean what the conditioned Jiva is composed of? What does it relate to? What does constitution mean? So I think that has to be defined, that has to be clear, so that there is no confusion about what our Guru Varga meant when they said constitution, right? So I will read one of the sort of bases of discussion was a meeting that took place among many stalwart Gaudiya acharyas in 1955, right? I'm not going to debate, because I've even had to debate with some people about the validity of the meeting itself. No, I'm not about to debate that. My Guru Parapadma was present, and he's describing from a personal experience what happened. So this wasn't something that was a conjecture or anything like that. This was an actual event. But I want to get to the point. I don't want to divert. So in the course of this conversation in 1955, and let me make sure I find the place, Param Gurudev, Nittalila Pravishtam Shnupada Paramhamsa, Astutar Sutta Sisima, Srila Acharya Keshwari, Bhakti Pragan Keshu Goswami Maharaj, was asked to speak regarding the nature of the Swarup of the Jiva being inherent or not, right? Because this was a question that was raised at that assembly. So prior to that, Pujapat Srila Bhakti Rakshak Srila Goswami Maharaj had spoken, And now Param Gurudev was asked to speak. So I'm just taking out a section that's appropriate to what we are talking about. So, to show what this word constitution is. So, Param Gurudev mentions, in the very same way, the constitutional name, form, bodily limbs, nature, and everything are present in a latent and unmanifest form in the constitution, here again is that word, of the jiva. So he's started by saying that essentially the swarup, in this case the swarup because he's being definitive, name, form, etc., which would indicate the siddha deha, is present in a latent and unmanifest form in the constitution of the jiva. Now we need to deal with latent and unmanifest as well, but here I'm just going to focus on the word constitution first. So when you hear that at first glance, we are thinking perhaps constitution means the jiva as we are considering ourselves right now, every jiva, right? But remember the jivas are of two categories, anadibada and nityasiddha. So in the anadibada jiva, who is affected by avidya, is Param Gurudev and our Guru Varga saying that the siddha deha is unmanifest or latent in the avidya controlled jiva. That's the question, right? So now if we're seeking out an answer, let's see what Param Gurudev then goes on to say. When the essence of Aladini and Samvit arise in the heart of the jiva by the association of Sadguru and Vaishnavas, then whatever constitutional, again the word constitutional, form the jiva has, gradually begins to manifest itself. So the key thing here is what is meant by the word constitution. Or our Srila Prabhupada used to use the word constitutional position. Right? Our Srila Gurudev used to directly use the words in your constitution. So what is the constitution that's being talked about? So what is the constitutional position of a jiva? So Jiva Goswami Pad is written, Dasabutu Hari Eva, Nanyash Eva Kadachana. Mahaprabhu, in answering the question of Sanatan Goswami Pad, mentioned Jivera Sarup Hoye Krishnera Nitya Dasa. Right? So the realization of the dasatva of the jiva to Krishna is what is considered to be constitutional. Right? So by saying that the swarup is inherent in the constitution, our Guru Vargas have not meant that to mean it's inherent in the makeup of a conditioned jiva. Because he considers the constitution, right, to be a stage in which dasatva is revealed. Your realization of dasatva is revealed Sudha Sattva Visheshatma Prema Suryangsa Samyabha. It is gradually over the unfoldment, but it is clear when there's descent of Swarup Shakti. So prior to the descent of Swarup Shakti, that Swarup Shakti is absent in the jiva. Jiva Goswami in Paramatma Sandarbha has clearly mentioned Anadi Paramatatva Jnanam Samsaraga Bhava Maya. That the Paratattva Jnana, it means Swarup Shakti, the knowledge of the jiva's relation with Krishna, is abhav in the jiva, right? It's not there in the jiva, right? But by the influence of bhakti, right? Meaning Swarup Shakti, Aladini and Samvit, it can descend and manifest in the heart of the jiva. This was the whole meaning of the verse, Kriti Sajya Bhavet Sajya Bhavasa Sadanabhida Nitya Siddhasya Bhavasha Prakratamriti Sajita. Prakratamriti Sajita means it manifests in the heart of the jiva. Now in the commentaries there's also written there Nitya Siddhasya Bhakta Bhavasha, right? Means from the heart of pure devotees. So I'm not going to debate whether the association, because even Param Gurudev is mentioning right here, that by the association of Guru and Vaishnavas, it is brought about. So everybody's not debating that it is indispensable that one has to have association that to bring out, right, the nature of the Swarup of the Jiva. Now, a key thing here is that the nature of Swarup Shakti, it is either present in the conditioned Jiva or it isn't. And if we acknowledge that the Siddha Deha, the desired body for service to Bhagavan is composed of Swarup Shakti, right? Then either it's in the conditioned Jiva or it isn't. Now, if we say that the Siddha Deha is composed of Swarup Shakti and it is in the conditioned Jiva, you have to explain how it is possible that Swarup Shakti itself could be covered by the avidya potency. So that's the difficulty. How is it that avidya Shakti is powerful enough to cover Swarup Shakti? Because then it would lead down a track that even having obtained al-Siddhi, there's a possibility, because when Swarup Shakti descends and we've obtained Siddha, there's a possibility that we could be covered again, because apparently Maya has the ability to cover Swarup Shakti. So that we know that's not possible. Therefore, the idea that the Siddha Deha itself is in the conditioned Jiva, and hence the word constitution referred to the conditioned Jiva, just is not true. It's not. So what is in the conditioned Jiva? Certainly Swarup Yogyata, or potential for a relationship with Krishna, because Jiva Goswami said, Dasabhuti Hari Eva Nanya Sheva Karachana. It is the nature of every Jiva that they are Das of Krishna. That potentiality is there. If that potentiality is not there, on the other hand, for those who argue that there's nothing there whatsoever, that cannot be true also. Because if you don't have potential for something, it doesn't matter what happens, who you associate with, or what you do, right? That thing will never come about because you have no potential for it. If you take something that has no combustible component, you can't light it on fire. There's nothing that has the combustible potential in something. You can't light it on fire. So it indicates that in the Jiva there is potential for a particular type of relationship. Now, under the influence of Swarup Shakti, right, that comes to the Jiva via the association with Guru, etc., that is realized, and at the time of Bhav Avas, or even gradually, because even in the stage of Ruchi, right, some perception of one's identity, everything can start to be revealed, and certainly in Asukti, and then in Bhav, Sudasattva Visheshatma, Prem Suyangsa Samyabhak, we've already quoted this verse, there's the full descent of Swarup Shakti. So this issue is a little difficult because, like I said, there's so many conceptual challenges in communicating it. So nobody's saying nothing is in the Jiva. And sometimes the debate is lost because the argument is whether or not the Siddha Deha is in the Jiva or not, and is being uncovered, right? But if we say that even the word rasa, vyatiti bhavana vatma yas chamakkara bharbahu ridi sattva ujale bhadam, that rasa is present where ridi ujala sattvale, where the heart is illuminated by Suddha Sattva. So if the heart has not become illuminated by Suddha Sattva, how can we say that the inherent ras of the Jiva is present there? If the heart has not yet become illumined, this is also the same as Suddha Sattva Visheshatma, right? The heart illumined by Suddha Sattva is the very definition of rasa, right? So if that has not happened yet, how can we say that it's there? Therefore, here's my point. Therefore, our Guru Vargas have not used the word constitutional to indicate the constitution of a jiva in general. They've used it to indicate the position in which the jiva has had the descent of Swarup Shakti. Automatically, with the descent of Swarup Shakti, the revelation of all of the things Param Gurudev mentioned, the constitutional name, form, bodily limbs, nature, everything is present there in a latent position. Now, what does latent here mean, or unmanifest here? It means something that has not been manifest to us because Swarup Shakti has not descended yet. It's latent, which means it is there in potential. We can't say that there's no potential for it, because if there isn't, then why are we even having this conversation? Right? So there is potential for it. So that's the idea of it being latent. There is its existence in a latent position, and that can be realized when our potential is realized, having had the descent of Swarup Shakti. This is the key element. Whether or not we accept that the Siddha Swarup, meaning the Siddha Deha, etc., because Swarup has different meanings in Sanskrit. Also, Swarup means the nature of something. Right? Jiva Goswami and Paramahansa Sandarbha gives a whole layout of in an ontological format of what is the jiva, and he mentions there Eka Rupa Swarupa Bhak. So here the word Swarup means that the Atma is situated in its own nature, right? Because we know the jiva never touches material energy, literally. Asangahi Anyam Purushaha. So the jivas never become one with the material energy or anything. The material energy, through the feature of avidya, exerts influence on the Atma because the Atma is devoid of Swarup Shakti, right? And therefore the Atma in that position, Jivera Tatasta Shakti, Bera Bed Prakash, being in that position void of Swarup Shakti, has the potential to be influenced by the avidya Shakti of the inferior energy, right? So here, this is the key thing. What was the definition that they were giving of constitutional? And because that word was used so much by our Guru Varga, we have to take heed what was meant by constitutional. And they meant in the position in which Swarup Shakti has descended. That is the original constitutional position of the jiva. Mahaprabhu indicated that. Jivera Swarup Krishna Nitya Das. Right? That in the realization of the dasitva of the jiva, right, depending on what that jiva was practicing, a particular form of dasitva will be manifest in a particular rasa. Now, another interesting thing is that if you read in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Gurudev's translation, right? So here I'm speaking especially those who are directly following our Srila Gurudev. He's written something on page 189 of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It's translated there on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu of Samanya. So here Gurudev makes a point, right? He's given a general description of Staibhav, right? So a person who has never taken the association of even a single devotee firmly situated in his particular perfected relationship in one of the five transcendental rasas may nevertheless awaken a general samanya type of rati by the maturing of his routine practice in bhajan. This non-specific type of rati of a general person is known as samanya staibhav, right? I haven't looked at the Sanskrit of this, so that's a whole nother thing, and I'm also not a Sanskrit scholar, but I'm quoting from what Gurudev has written here in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu, right? It is said to be general because it is devoid of the specific characteristics of Santa Dasya and so on, right? So there is also direct evidence from Srila Gurudev, right, that the influence of the revelation of what is there in perfected state has something to do with how we have association. Not only the necessity for association to bring it out, but something to do with the fact that the nature of the association we have, right, nourishes, right, what is there in the Constitution, right? So we can't say that Sadhu Sangha does not play any part, right? And nobody's saying this, so please don't misunderstand me. I'm just trying to make it clear that there is, especially in the unfoldment of bhakti from being a sadhaka and going forward, that there is clear evidence in many places that the influence of the type of sangha we have, right? Because Gurudev is mentioning right here, a person who's not associated with anyone, a general type of realization of dasatvam may take place, devoid of the specifications of one of the 5 types of rasa. Right? Now, I will personally go and look, more deeply, and those who are much more deeply steeped in being able to understand Sanskrit of this and everything may look in this section of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and be able to give more revelation. But Srila Gurudev has written here about this. So obviously there's some indication that there is some speciality in the nature of the type of association we have on influencing what will manifest in our perfected state, right? So I don't think it's something that should be a cause of division. I think it is important to understand that there are angles of vision on this, but there are some things which sedantically you can't rationalize. Like, we can't rationalize that what was meant by the word constitution was that the conditioned jiva has a siddha swarup that has now been covered over by the avidya shakti. And even where the idea is used that when avidya is removed, it reveals the siddha deha, was not indicative that that siddha deha was in a conditioned jiva. It indicates, because how is avidya removed? Avidya is removed by the influence of Swarup Shakti. Param Gurudev just said that. By the descent of Swarup Shakti, avidya is removed. So it is not that, for instance, if you were just following the path of Gyan, right, like Brahmavadis, Mayavadis, when avidya is removed, because even the Mayavadis and Brahmavadis, they're also removing avidya. Does it mention anywhere that the Mayavadi or Brahmavadi, by the removal of avidya, a particular kind of rasa with Krishna is manifest? It doesn't. Yet avidya has been removed. So the quality is not just the removal of avidya, but is the actual influence of Swarup Shakti. So it is not just the removal of ignorance. It is the presence of the actual Parashakti, Swarup Shakti, manifesting in what's the realization of a particular name, form, etc. related to Bhagavan is revealed. So the idea that it's simply buried by avidya and by removing avidya will be there, right? Then anybody whose avidya is removed, that should be a axiomatic feature of it, right? Because when your avidya is removed, a particular rasa with Krishna should be present. But we see in the Mayavadi, right? They remove ignorance, they remove the influence of material nature. Now, of course, yea, native induction, mukti maninis, this verse is there for Mayavadis, but even Brahmavadis who realize Brahman, right? Their avidya is removed, but it doesn't mention that they have a particular type of relationship with Krishna. Now, I don't want to go down the argument that, yes, Brahman is also one kind of relationship, because there's a whole chain of thought about that too. But here, we're talking specifically that those who are practicing Shuddha Bhakti, right? And by the influence of Swarup Shakti, coming from the practice of Shuddha Bhakti, when they will realize their perfection and Swarup Shakti descends, for them, the natural byproduct of that realization is a particular name, form, etc. in relationship with a particular siddha deha in relationship to Krishna. So this is a kind of attempt to give a basic answer to what is sometimes confusing, and I don't know why it would have given rise to really heavy division in our Sangha or in the general Gaudiya community about this issue, right? There are certain things that there's definitely mutual agreement on. One is that Swarup Shakti can't be covered by Maya. I don't think anybody is saying that that's a fact, right? And certainly our Guru Varga, Srila Gurudev has not said, Srila Prabhupada has not said, our Guru Vargas, Param Gurudeva, I don't think any have said like that the Swarup Shakti itself is covered by Maya. We know that the Siddha Deha is composed of Swarup Shakti, so that's not debatable. That's not something that's wrong. We also know that the Atma, even when avidya is removed, right, without the descent of Swarup Shakti, right, there's no indication that the Atma just in its nature void of Swarup Shakti, as Jiva Goswami ontologically described in Paramatma Sandarbha, right, has a particular type of relationship with Krishna. Because even in that description Jiva Goswami gave, he quoted Chidananda Atmaka, and then in the commentary on that he says, this indicates that the Jiva is Dukkha Pratiyogita, means he's devoid of any misery. There's no misery in the Atma itself. But it did not mention that that simultaneously meant that the Jiva was in a relationship with Krishna. Right? Of course, this is an ontological description Jiva Goswami is given because we acknowledge there's two conditions of the Jiva. Either conditional life or being liberated. Right? So it was an ontological description of the Atma and so forth. So we do know that only when Swarup Shakti descends and removes the function of avidya does Swarup Shakti reveal. And even if you look in the commentary of the verse Kriti Sajja Bhavet Sajja in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Jiva Goswami Vishwanath Chakravarti, they say it is the influence of the Swarup Shakti which then comes and reveals the Nitya Siddha Bhav. Now, because we acknowledge that there's no possibility for that to happen without the presence of Sri Guru, it's acknowledged that Nitya Siddha Bhav, right, is inextricably connected to the relationship with Sri Guru. Other than that, then another acknowledgement we'd have to make is you don't really need Guru to realize Swarup Shakti, realize Bhav, etc. Nobody's going to say that. So, I don't know if this made things any clearer, really, but I hope at least when it came to understanding why sometimes debate or differences may arise based on how we understand the English words, which was my emphasis in this particular answering of the question of one devotee. Why that would happen, I think if we really all look closely, there shouldn't be any reason for division or any rise of conflict around this issue, because I think we mutually agree on those points, right? One, Swarup Shakti can't be covered by Maya. The Siddha Deha or Siddha Swarup in this that we're talking about is composed of Swarup Shakti, right? The word constitution, as it was used by our Guru Vargas, indicated the state in which the Jiva has Swarup Shakti. There, the potential that's in the Jiva, every Jiva, is fulfilled, and when it's fulfilled, the name, form, etc., of that Jiva is realized. So therefore, you could say, because potentially it is there in the perfected condition, it is latent or unmanifest. But none of those terms apply to it being in the conditioned Jiva and covered by Avidya Shakti. So the words covered, etc., simply meant that the Jiva, right, is in a condition where they have not experienced Swarup Shakti, right? And by the practice of bhakti, Swarup Shakti descends and reveals. It removes the avidya and it reveals the Swarup of the Jiva, etc. Because I've already given the example that Mayavadis and Brahmavadis may also remove avidya there's no mention that they realize a particular Swarup in relation to Krishna Seva. Right? So, again, my Dandavat Pranam, this is a very complex issue, and there's so much more to it. I just was trying to answer a particular question, and to also try to bring some harmony if there's misunderstanding that's based on the English parlance that we're using when we discuss these things. Right? All right, my Dandavat Pranam, I'm sure there'll probably be more questions and so forth to it, and maybe I needed to clarify some things. I may not have spoken it as clearly as I would like to have, but I just really wanted to get to certain crux issues in the overall issue, which was especially the use of English words when we're discussing these things. All right, my Dandavat Pranam to devotees, Vancha Kalpaturubhischa Kripa Sindhubevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Radhe Radhe.